Okay, so good morning, everybody. So here, yeah, the room is full, so there's a lot of hardcores in venture capital and startups, so we're very happy about it. So we'll talk about the future of seed and venture capital. So I will start. Of course, there's no future. I mean, the future is normally a present shift. So we'll talk about the past and the present of seed and venture capital. So the first thing I would like to do is to have a quick round of introduction, so that you introduce yourself and you know where you come from and what's your area of interest.
Sure.
Yep.
So I'm Andrew. I live in London, and I am part of Seedcamp. I'm a fellow there. Seedcamp invests in startups. It's a startup investing program at the micro seed stage. So we do £50,000 investments. We take a small portion of equity, and we consider it. Oh, sorry. So we consider it a program because we solicit deals from about 10 locations around Europe and North America and Asia recently. And once these teams are in, they are part of the program of accelerating. So we have a group of mentors, about 1,200 internationally. So it's not just really an investment for us. It's more so, you get in and you accelerate and so forth. But it's in the very early stages of investments.
I'm Paolo Gesess. I'm in the Italian venture capital arena since 1998. I've been in corporate venture, venture fund. I've done some angel investing. So I've 12 years of experience, 13 years of experience in the Italian venture capital. Now I'm founder and managing partner of Jupiter Venture, which is an Italian holding company investing in venture capital. We just waited out of those seed activities that are around, something good come up.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, Andrea Baldini. I'm from Early Bird Venture Capital, which is actually a German company founded in '97. I'm a technical guy by education. I lived in the US for a while, and I guess now I'm back also in the Italian venture market, and we do early stage, a bit higher in the pipeline, so 1 million up, give or take, up to the exit.
Thank you. I'm Nick Heller from Google. I am a former entrepreneur. Now I run new business development in Europe. New business development is the glue between product development, corporate development, and developer outreach. We help with the business side of product development. I'm also active in the startup community. I'm a director on 2 startups based in Canada. Also chairman of the Silicon Valley Comes to Cambridge event, and participate around Europe on events such as this. Thank you.
Okay. During the discussion, if there's any question from the audience, especially from startups, just don't be shy. Raise your hands. They're all ears, so be curious. I'm sure you are. So I will start from Paolo, since you said, it's 13 years you've been in the venture capital arena. So you say we start from the past. So what's fundamentally different, or what has been going on in these 13 years in the arena? So what do you see? What are the factors that impacted the change? What are the major changes? And probably we'll touch the perspectives later on.
Well, I started in the venture capital in 1998, and was the internet where the disruptive technology that would have changed the world, which is happened. So even 12 years ago, 13 years ago, what I noticed is that innovation was the driver of startups, driver of the growth, driver of the economy. And the venture capital role was, just to push and to ride the innovation and the startups, and so this is the same. The difference is the pace of innovation. The pace of innovation is just faster and faster, and more startups are trying to deal with it. this is the positive part in those 10 years. The negative is that the venture capital arena it didn't change as fast. We were like 4 or 5 investors in 1998, and we are now 10, 12, not 25 or 13. So this is I think the very different now from the 1998 times.
Okay, is there any major, especially talking probably about Italy, is there any major roadblock? I mean, something which is preventing the full development of this industry or different models?
Well, yeah, I disagree on what was said yesterday, that it's difficult to set up a startup in Italy. I don't think the 2,000 euros to start an SRL in Italy, it's much different than $150 that you needed in the States. It's not that the problem. And also, I keep seeing a lot of startups in Italy. We have every month 70, 80 startups sending projects and try to show up. So I don't think the problem is to set up the startup. The problem is to set up a venture capital firm. I know a lot of people that is try to want to be a venture capital, and it's very difficult to find LPs to invest. It's very difficult to have an Italian structure, easy to manage. So.
Okay, so and how does it work at, I will go on the Google side, so at corporate level, how do you look at the seed and venture, but I would say at how to spur innovation some way or another, and how do you tackle it globally, which is the game actually. So how do you do that?
So first of all, I think it's important to recognize that startups, small, medium-sized businesses, are the backbone of any strong economy, and that's true in the United States. That's true in Italy. That's true across Europe. And we see with the financial markets right now that are not doing great. Investing in the startup community, I think, is extremely important. Let me just start with giving you a stat that I recently heard. In 2007, $62 trillion was invested in credit default swap derivatives. Does everybody know what that means? Betting on people defaulting. Imagine if that was invested in small, medium-sized businesses and in startups. Imagine the innovation that would happen. Incredible. So at Google, we think about entrepreneurship as inherent in how we work as an organization, considering we started with 2 founders in a garage. Last quarter, we made nearly $10 billion in revenue. We've been extremely successful. And every single product leader across our business is actually a former entrepreneur. So we're structured in a way that we think quickly, act quickly, launch, iterate, and pivot when necessary. We also invest heavily in the entrepreneurial ecosystem globally. It's really important for us to push the tech industry forward. And we start off maybe at a very basic fundamental level of giving back to the open source community. So we spend hundreds of millions of dollars actually creating open source code. And you may not see that as a typical investment in a startup, but when you make a platform like Android or a browser like Chrome and then release the code to the open source community, you're lowering the barriers to entry for all startups. And that's extremely important. So that's fundamentally the first point. The second point is we do a lot of outreach to the developer community to train them on the tools that are out there. It doesn't cost a lot of money, as you pointed out, to start a business these days, and a lot of these tools are out there. So we train the community. We also train the trainer. We have something called Google Technology User Groups, GTUGs, that also give back, and these happen. These initiatives happen globally. So then kind of moving on, if you think of the startup world as a continuum of here's an idea and here's an IPO or an exit of some sort, moving along that continuum, we also invest in the broader ecosystem. So right now, I should point out, Google Ventures is only live in the U.S. Google Ventures is our venture arm. We do typical or more traditional venture investments in U.S. companies, and we're trying to prove the model before we actually bring it abroad. But we do more seed or ecosystem partnership projects across the rest of the world. Under my region in Europe, Middle East, and Africa, we've launched 3 interesting initiatives over the course of the last year. One in South Africa, we launched something called Umbuno, which means vision in Zulu. That's where we partnered with the local angel community to match investments that they are providing for startups and help select startups and then mentor them post-investment. It's important to note that we're actually not even looking for a return on these investments, but what we are looking for is to push the ecosystem along. 2 other points, and then I'll pass this on. We also launched something in Egypt this year called Start with Google, which is a business plan competition. And that's a little bit of a public-private partnership in Egypt where we are asking the startup community to submit a business plan and then go through a training and mentoring program where the winners actually get $200,000. And the third initiative, which I'll mention, is in London, where we recently announced the soon-to-be opened entrepreneurial space in East London, in Tech City, which is an area of London that is being invested in by the UK government to spur innovation. And it's just going to be an entrepreneurial space for the community where startups can meet and gather and collaborate, which is an important point. So I hope that gives you a flavor of everything that Google's doing across the ecosystem. Entrepreneurship and technology is in our blood, and we hope to push it forward as well in Italy.
Yeah, so this aptitude to be global as a presence applies also, of course, for Seedcamp and probably also for Early Bird, and we'll come to Andrea in a minute. So, Andrew, can you explain how, since the very beginning, even the Seedcamp model has changed? I mean, how do you now control the global, or let's say at least European presence, but I would say rather global? So what's the model, and how do you look at that?
It's expanded quite a bit, hasn't it? And I know you were involved since 2007. So in 2007, we had just had the London event. In 2008, I think we had 4 events or so. And now last year we had, I believe, 10. We'll probably have about 10 this coming year. And every year we have about the same amount, 6 or so, in the major cities. So Berlin, I think New York's going to be probably one of those, Paris. In addition to those, we had last year Mumbai. We had Singapore. So we have some more of the emerging economies and so forth. We're going to Turkey this coming, I think, January or February. Our next event is actually in Barcelona. So our model is to really have these actual on-site presences in these markets.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, you move throughout the whole Europe and also the EMEA region, or say global. But how does it work? I mean, normally at those events, you see local presence, or you see still people from overall Europe coming to those hubs. So actually you're creating some innovation hubs and some investment hubs.
It's definitely a little bit of both, for sure. On site, we always have a mentor presence and a partner presence, but you also see a lot of the venture capitalists who've invested in Seedcamp, especially from London. So some of the largest funds in Europe are flying all over to our events to solicit those early stage deals.
So that does it mean that having you yourself as a Seedcamp, you're in a hub, right? So you are.
Yeah, it's an ecosystem in essence, an ecosystem of inventors and entrepreneurs and mentors, definitely.
Yeah. So the mentors are probably you can explain to those who are not very much familiar. Who are they? I mean,
the mentors.
What they're doing it?
I'd say it's kind of a conglomerate of old entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, entrepreneurs who've gone through our program. You see some of the business community in each of these cities coming together, but it's just kind of these mini ecosystems that come together And they don't only mentor for these events, they normally stay on and continue to mentor the companies as they grow.
Okay, so we'll come back to that later. So Andrea, probably it's the same because you are from Early Bird is a VC fund. You recently opened an office here. So what's the reason, the main reason to be present as a sort of watchdog in a country? So of course you could do it by traveling a lot and having a central hub in Europe or having a local presence. So what's the added value of having a local presence?
Well, in the end, it's a local business, right? So it's global in nature, meaning that you want global markets, global exits. But it's very local in the way you approach, especially the startups. So in the end, I think you need to be as close as possible to the startups, to the people. It's a people business, so you need to go where the new people are and where they are producing innovation and producing new ideas and new businesses. So I'll give you an example there. In Germany, the early bird is in Hamburg and in Munich, but a recent decision was to actually close the Hamburg office and go to Berlin, because that's where everything is happening, actually. So in the end, the deal flow, the recent deal flow comes from there. It doesn't come from Hamburg anymore or from Cologne or other parts. It still comes from Munich in part because the Bayern region is very rich. But it comes from Berlin. So in Italy, the bet is kind of seeing if this is true too. I mean, if Milan can be a hub, if maybe the entire northern part can be a hub for innovation too. So if the entrepreneurship can develop, on the axis of North and then Rome, and we are well connected. So here we are the same situation of the Valley. In the end, everything is reasonably close. In 3 hours you're in Rome, in 1 hour you're in Turin, and 2 hours you are in Veneto. So it's everything is here. On the other hand, it is still a very global business. So I'll give you 2 examples on that. One is the deal flow. From Berlin, we are seeing deal flow coming from all over the place and also from Italy now, which is interesting. So we have many Italians abroad. And actually, they are trying to come back. Many of them are trying to come back, or they are developing companies and innovation outside. Maybe they come from London or New York or Silicon Valley, and they want to create innovation anyway. So I don't think here is a worse place to do that. On the other hand, the recent investments we had in Germany, yes, they are they are through Berlin, but one is from Prague, and the other one is from Turkey, actually, which is a very, very interesting place. And on the exit side, which is in the end what pays for the entire thing, the exits are totally international. So right now it's very difficult to exit in Europe. It's very difficult, of course, to have an IPO. And all the trade sales are on the American side. The last 2, one is Scoreloop, which is a open faint competitor, Game Center, Apple Game Center, just to give an idea. So social gaming, blah, 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 and exited to RIM, the BlackBerry, before the meltdown. And the other one is actually a company, Bridgeco, is a technology company, pure technology company, and they are the one behind AirPlay, the Apple technology to stream from one device to the other, photos and videos, and they've been acquired by an American company. So in the end, it's purely local. You start from one place because that's where the entrepreneurs are. You develop the market to international market. If it's needed, you move the company to the US or wherever, to London, to Germany, wherever it's needed. And then you sell it because it needs to be international. And the appeal at that point is for international buyers. If they are Americans, that's good. If we need to go to Hong Kong, we go to Hong Kong.
Just one quick question, since Berlin is coming on stage again and again, what's happening there in Berlin? What are the major factors, since it's a raising hub, I would say? So what in your opinion are the major reasons, or the first 3 reasons why this is happening there?
The first one, it's cool. I mean, let's be very clear. It's becoming really cool to be in Berlin. So everybody's talking about it. So it creates a good circle, a good marketing circle, a good PR circle too. So I mean, it's cheap, reasonably cheap actually. So you can live there for, the rents are very cheap actually. It's like bohemian in nature. So it's, cool people go there. And it's becoming really international. I mean, if you go to Berlin, the sensation is there's a lot of English going on, not German. So I don't, especially in innovation, the first language is not German anymore. So you can actually find English-speaking, a lot of English-speaking people in Berlin. So I think that's where it becomes a hub, where it becomes a new way, in a sense, or a new context, a new environment, and everybody wants to go there because at that point you have all the cool people, you have designers, you got good architecture, you got cheap rents, you got good programmers. There's a ton of programmers there, so you can find talent. And so it's then the secret of Silicon Valley in the end, right? I mean, it's no secret. It's just we saw it yesterday, one big network. So the same thing is happening very, very in a small way.
I would also add they have really great universities. So
they do have a
great
university
pool of talent and knowledge.
Yeah. So a question I would ask to all of you. So in principle, so you say now that the game of is global, so the investors are moving a lot. People are moving a lot because they come to events from throughout all Europe and global. So at the end, since this is a choice you have to make probably at the very beginning of the business, do you prefer the entrepreneurs to be in their home country, so to stay there if it's that favorable because there is a good ecosystems and so on? Do you prefer to be close to where they finance is healthy, I would say, where they will find the later rounds? Or do you prefer them to be close to the reference market they will choose? So what would you suggest to them? Do you prefer to stay where they are, or they should move immediately where they want to sell their things? Or that is indifferent because the market is global?
I don't have a very clear opinion on that. I think that the secret of success of a startup is not the place, but is the skill of the entrepreneur. If he's good, he find money. He go through the difficult rules of our country compared to another one. He scale his business to an international. So. There's no a suggestion. Go there because it's easier or it's faster. But be good. Be very very committed to your plan and try to do your best and work hard. That's what I would say. We definitely need anyway. To create a network, to create an environment which is helpful, and we need especially success story to tell in order to show that venture capital, seed capital, and startup they can get together and build economy, to grow the economy.
Yeah, because that, just to elaborate on that, because how much is important to have a kind of diversity in the startup that you create, or how much is important to be to keep your original soul? I mean, I'm an Italian, so I might have some characteristics, or if I'm German, I have another characteristics, or the innovation comes more from the diversity. So probably having this interchange of, so that at that point the national borders don't count anymore. What do you think about?
I think if you consider for a second, maybe let me think from a Google perspective, when we acquire a company, what are we really trying to acquire? I think the same goes with when you're investing as a VC or an investor. You look at primarily team. So how good and strong are the individuals? And so they should be playing on their strengths, whatever their strengths are, and they should find teammates that are able to help build the sum of the parts as greater. than each individual team member. The second point would be why we would acquire a company would be technology and IP. So again, that could be anywhere, and that also requires a good dynamic team. And the third major reason that we would acquire a company would be around users and user base, which are generally larger acquisitions. So to get back to your original question, I think it's important to play off your strengths. I think it's important to understand culturally how you develop who you are as an individual. So maybe, great designers are coming from Milano. If you look at some of the hubs that have started to appear around the world, New York, for instance, has a strong retail fashion startup scene and media startup scene because that's what they're known for, whereas Silicon Valley is generally deep programming knowledge. You have universities like Stanford there. The Germans are really great at execution. I mean, it's no secret. So I think we have to, you have to be true to yourself, as you say, but find that right dynamic mix of people.
Okay. So, keeping an eye on the present. So recently, there has been some change, of course, in the investment arena. I mean, you see different model emerging. Okay, the angel, super angel. So this is a sort of attempt to cope with the growing number of opportunities or startups, because actually you see that number exploding. Is there clear difference in the skills or knowledge that you require when you do a seed investment or a VC investment? So what's changed? Because now you see a sort of mix. Some VCs tend to, for fear probably or losing some opportunity, they move in the seed arena. Is it that correct, or you preferably would use some tools like Seedcamp? I would say so, some fund of funds. How do you see that trend going on? Probably starting from Andrew, that since Seedcamp was born right for that, right? So
yeah. I mean, it's soliciting deals at the earliest of stages. We're looking for the team, obviously, as well. Something in the early stage, we look for that good product that has that potential for explosive growth. I think probably some of the VC, what they're looking at are slightly different. Ours is just very at that almost incubation stage.
Yes.
Yeah, you can.
Seed and venture are two different kind of jobs.
Yeah.
And I think to do seed investment, you need to have some skills, certain skills. To do venture, you need others. So it's, as a venture capital, I really appreciate to participate in organization like Seedcamp or all others. Kind of, or Mind the Bridge, or those kind of stuff that push the seed. But it's I participate, but I don't want to.
What's fundamentally different? I mean, you in the seed area, you have to have some hands-on approach. So you have to work a bit on the companies, which normally a normal VC team. It's not that large, right? So you don't have time to do that. So
yeah, it's just the way you use your time in the VC. On a VC investment, you pass a lot of time checking documents and looking at business plan numbers and figures. And being close to the entrepreneur, helping him in networking, business dev. I imagine, because I've never done a really seed investment, but to do these seed activities, you need a lot of time in the fields, looking around for good talents, try to check technology goals, and I mean. You don't talk about numbers because the business plans are just paper, so it's pretty different.
Yeah, it's almost more of a training game to a certain extent. I mean, so a lot of our founders are technical founders, and they don't have those skills necessarily to scale. So we call them Seedcamp days every month, where our teams from wherever they may be fly into London, and we have that training that goes on. That the last one we did was on Tuesday, and it was about business development. How do you initially see how your users and so forth are interacting with your product? Can you form those business relationships and so forth? But it's really on the granular level. You know, you're a lot of times talking about 2 or 3 very, very technical co-founders who have never done sales, who don't sometimes even aspire to be, you know, that biz development or sales or even CEO kind of type. They just want to make their product very good, and you have to help them along that process. And I think it's just a very wide skill set. I mean, each of our days throughout the year, it's completely different things, but they all go around kind of the holistic view of how do you grow this business? How can you get to the next round and go to a VC? What are they looking for? And a lot of times we have these venture capitalists come in and it's about the ecosystem and networking and seeing the deals very early on and saying, we think this is what you need to get to the next step. Here are some milestones that we're looking for and so forth. So I definitely think it's more so that technical founder on the seed stage that doesn't have necessarily the rounded skills, and a VC is maybe looking for a little bit more of a team to have formed at that point, a little more specialization to really scale with that influx of money.
Yeah, I agree.
So is this model, I mean, going or starting from an investment from $20K to $50K, right, to take them to the first prototype, to make it a bit more robust, is it easing, I mean, making it more easier your job of VC to see the opportunity, or is just making it more crowded and messy or more expensive to buy? So is it helping it, I mean, the Y Combinator Seedcamp model, or not?
I think it's helping anyway. Look, it's a pipeline, right? So no matter what, you need a lot of opportunities to actually select the best. From our perspective, it's just a matter of, you know, it's not betting, but it's basically putting money in a project and in a partnership where you think, or a lot of the partners think, there's an opportunity to scale up. So if you don't have a lot of opportunities in front of you, it's difficult to benchmark them. It's difficult to actually understand which one is the one you want, right? So it's not only a matter of selection in terms of, you know, like private equity, you have a model and you compare the EBITDA versus the model or whatever metric you got. It's more a matter of fit, right? So if it's fit, then you need really a lot of opportunities to actually find the right one. You know, we always compare it to, you know, in a sense, look at seed, the word seed itself. What does it mean? I mean, you put a lot of seeds in the ground, and then there's someone else who helps, you know, say, okay, I like that one for this particular reason or for this particular people, actually. And I'm trying to grow it up to a tree, right? Then you can, you know, see these things in different ways. So different investors have very different opinions. And that's, you know, so that's why we need a lot of opportunities and a lot of investors possibly to actually have a market. To actually have a market of businesses, a market of teams, a market of ideas, and in the end, a market of exits, right? So my feeling is the more we got, the better it is, because, you know, the more people are interested in, the more probability you have to get it to a success story, which is in the end what drives the business. So unfortunately, it's a very long business. So a success story is usually, you know, very far from the 20K. Not necessarily that far. Sometimes success stories are very fast too, but in general, it's a long pipeline.
Does it apply also for corporate? I mean, how old should they be as companies to come into your radar? I mean, you do also have a venture arm, right? So what are you looking at? I mean,
I think the majority of our acquisitions are actually quite small. They're talent acquisitions for the most part, or some tech IP acquisition, and those are quite small, so they'd be relatively early in the lifespans of an organization, of a business. So if you can prove yourself as an entrepreneur, prove your business model, prove your execution skills, show that you're progressing and growing your business, I think, you know, you can exit actually quite early. And there's been some incredible success stories. So, I mean, I'm at events like this to meet the startup community, to see these startups, and then so that I can see in a year how they've grown. I see them on stage here at Mind the Bridge, and then a year from now, where are they? And it's important to show that growth and to get on the radar early. I think it's all very helpful. All these seed models and incubator models are extremely helpful at growing the ecosystem. It's still relatively early in their existence. I think Y Combinator's been around since 2005 or 2007. But having that hands-on training with a small capital investment is essential for creating companies that are going to be successful.
I would open to the floor. Is there any question from audience, in particular startups? Or you know it all?
Question to
Wait a second.
Thank you. You mentioned before that what you look at, and you also mentioned that again now, in a startup is also the IP. How important is that? How is that a necessary condition, and why is that so important? Does Google only consider companies where IP is amassed?
No, I think it's just one factor, and that's on a case-by-case basis. So we look at companies that fit into our product portfolio, that are a missing piece of our product portfolio, and that may be a piece of IP, or it may be a talented team that can help build out another feature in the product, or build out a product itself. So it's not an absolute essential element, but it could be one element that we would fit in. It's on a case-by-case basis. I think more important, just to finish that, more important is actually the team.
Other questions? Okay. So, looking at the future, now I'll go back to Paolo to see, what do you think will be the scene, or let's say, what would you do here in order to make this community grow? So, I mean, to have the overall value chain completed, because probably we do have still some holes in there, and yeah. So where would you start from?
Well, I'm starting from setting up a new fund, and I really appreciate that the Early Bird is setting up a fund here, and I think we definitely need more player, more in the seed, in the venture, and in the filiera. I don't know how to say it in English. In the change. So we need competition like Mind the Bridge. We need all those things, grow and be more populated. That's in the future. I hope to be here in 5 years, 6 years with not only 5 venture capital operator playing in Italy, but maybe 20, and so all those startups have more chance to get funded and to grow.
Okay, so and how do you see it developing throughout Europe? I mean, would it make sense really to have a few, or there will be a few big hub? Like, I mean, Seedcamp wants to rule them all. Yeah. Or will there be space for more hubs? How do you see that?
Yeah, I think we'll always have hubs like Berlin. I don't think I couldn't picture us ever not being in the major hubs. I think the future will probably be us having a presence in even some of the smaller ecosystems, maybe even going to somewhere like Estonia for a smaller event that feeds into something like Berlin, maybe having something more like a roadshow, go to the Scandinavian countries, go to Moscow and recruit for coming into these events. But I think it's going to be continuing to expand really into those smaller markets and finding this entrepreneurial talent where they live and so forth, and kind of bringing them out so they have a chance to shine.
Will there be one question from my side is we always talk about funding the next or new Google or Facebook, whatever. What happens normally if Google finds the new Google? I mean, is it easy to manage something which is big and to let it grow when you are corporate already big?
I think we'd love to find the next Google and invest in it. I think that would be a great problem to have, investing in a company that's fast growing. And we've done investments in the U.S. with companies that are very fast growing and are it might be IPOing in the near future. It is investing is always about backing the right horse, and for that it takes a keen eye and an understanding of where the business and in our case the technology world is going. So I mean this is a great problem to have. I can only say that. I want to say one other thing though. I think this event is an incredible meeting of minds and to talk about how we can push this forward. So very good to Marco and the team on the bridge for putting it together. I also I work for a Silicon Valley company, but I'm responsible for Europe, and I'm a Canadian but also a European. I'm Greek. I think it's important that we look around Europe, around someone in the same time zone, or we look to Israel where there's great technology and great minds, and we actually work together to build out this ecosystem here, because this is all one big community, and without having to only go back over the pond to the United States, I think there's a ton of opportunity both in Italy but across Europe and the greater Europe. There's this type of event and these this ecosystem is budding in Berlin, in Paris, in London, and in Spain, and in Tel Aviv, and in many other countries. So if we can, have more bilateral trade and knowledge transfer, I think we will succeed together. So I'll say that.
Questions?
Hi guys, I just wanted to go back to some of the discussions that we had yesterday, the generational divide. And here it's great to see, a panel of ventures where a few of the people on the panel still have to grow a beard. So you shave pretty good. So I just wanted to bring it back to, I guess as a lot of startups also asking that questions. Two things. On a personal level, what we were asking yesterday to the startups, to the people that were on a panel of alumni, what is a fire in your belly, right? What motivates you? And so, especially from you two guys, not that you two, Paolo and Nick, are old, but let me start from these two guys that look a little bit younger, at least at the, as young as a startup. Can you share some of your personal path? How did you get there? And also, again, what motivates you?
Sure. You can start.
Yeah, so second question. It's really great to see startups getting together, especially from such diverse geographies. When you have teams from Tel Aviv coming together with teams from Prague and teams from Barcelona or whatever it is, and seeing them mesh together and share ideas. I think the most interesting times are even just going to the bar after our events. And having people share, what's going on with your company, what's going on with your company. And it seems like that's the most beneficial times, and that's kind of the most fun, at least that I have. My background is entrepreneurship, so I just graduated from Imperial College with my MBA, but before that I worked for 3 startups. So it's kind of the path I've taken. It makes sense that I'm with Seedcamp because all we do is the startup ecosystem. So.
Okay, a little bit about my story. So I'm probably a little bit older than you imagine because I have 2 Master of Science, 1 PhD, and 1 MBA. So I studied way too much. But in the middle, during all of this, I worked 6 years in Cisco in San Jose. The guts, I mean, why you're doing this? To tell you the truth, one would imagine that investors do that for the money. It's partially true, but the reality of things is that if you love innovation, and I do love innovation. I mean, I do love technology. I do love innovation. I do love people that do innovation. And if you love international things, I mean, there are very, very few environments in which you can be at the same time very personal and very global, very international. You have that feeling in Silicon Valley. I mean, you have that feeling of a melting pot of people coming in and going out all the time. I think we can have the same feeling here in the end. I think we are a melting pot. And, you know, if we take away the provincial aspects of it, we can get the real stuff, the gut stuff, the stuff they're saying, okay, I'm not only working or getting a wage or getting a carry or whatever it's called in your business, but I'm doing something in the end that grows big, right? And it's everybody knows it. I mean, in the end, I think that's a story everybody loves. And I'm sure that's the story you love when you join Google, right? I mean, that's what it is. You join a company like Google. I joined Cisco for the same reason. It was already a big company, of course, but I joined a startup in Cisco. And you have this incredible feeling of people, you know, working, of course, a lot to get to the market, to get to the real stuff, to have this thing that you created, and then it gets out and, you know, and it gets actually sold. Actually, someone buys it, which is incredible if you think about it. Or in your case, someone, you know, clicks on it or pays a little bit of a margin on that click, you know. And that feeling, I think, is so. That is the main feeling. Now, I could be probably an entrepreneur. I had the other choice of going to the other side, the dark side of the business, I guess, and to help people do that. So in the seed metaphor, let me just be a bit poetic and take away the dark side. You know, you plant the seeds, then you see them grow. Now, sweat is the only way to put water on the plants, but you need a very big sun to make them grow. So I do think that venture capital can be an accelerator of that. So a big sun that just gets, you know, to the plant. Tons of sweat and a lot of capital. And then maybe you can get to, you know, some billions.
Anyway, no, I just wanted to congratulate again. So why don't you give these two guys a round of applause? It's great to see the young folks going on the dark side of the business. And Andrea, I want to use the same face cream that you're using because you definitely look younger than what you said. So congrats.
Yeah, and it's definitely not a drop-off. I mean, so is there any question from the audience that you... Otherwise, I would go for a quick run just to go to the end and say, okay, since we started looking at 2020 as time horizon, so do you see, that's my interest, do you see a particular region or sector where would you invest in? I mean, where you see something emerging or something which could spur real economic growth or investment return? Is there something that you think will be a rising star in the next 8 to 10 years?
No, I hope someone want to start up. Tell me, you know. No, as Jupiter, we think we will focus on innovation in all the sector. So that could be, you know, but if there is a new sector or a new vertical that ramp up, well, we will try to be there. But I think starting from what we have now, we have a lot work to do in innovating in the banking, in the insurance, in a lot of traditional sector.
Yeah, you know, finance would be. I think there could definitely see some growth in that. Who knows about 8 years from now? It could be anybody's guess. Out of I think we have 56 investments over the last 4 years. Something I noticed was analytics. We just invested in an online analytics company that did farming. So when I was an undergrad, I was in the farmer dorms, and these guys were going to plow the fields at 5 in the morning, and it's unbelievable that something like similar to Google Analytics could be applied to something like farming. Social media analytics is another one. We have a company that does social media analytics or app analytics, like Mop App that was here last year. So I see that online analytics game being applied to a lot of these more traditional industries like farming, and I could see that growing, at least in the near to medium term, at least.
Nick?
7+ billion people in the world, 5+ billion mobile telephones, 2+ billion people online. I think if you just follow the trend, you invest in the internet, you invest in the mobile internet, and how location plays a part in that, and our interpersonal relationships. I think it's as safe as an investment can be.
I have the easy part because I can say all of the above. No, I mean it's to be fair, it's a $1 billion question, right? But we can see that some things are hot now, like gaming or social. Those are the hot things. Groupon, which was very good signal, by the way. On the other hand, long term, and if you are asking, 2020, as the original question was, which is a very difficult question. Yes, I would say the trends are prevailing. So we have a lot of things that can be disintermediated, meaning, in finance or others. I mean, all the models that can be disrupted will probably be, because that's where call them margins, call them opportunities, but yes, they will be disrupted. Something sooner than the rest. I don't know if the financial markets will be the first, or maybe the social markets, and mobile is probably the biggest trend in that sense. I do agree with that. On the other hand, just historically, new trends are very fast to come up. So it's very difficult to say 2020 or 8 years from now, because probably in 2 or 3 years we'll see a lot of new stuff, which is the beauty of this, right? So I do hope to see the new cloud computing thing or whatever it is, and it's not necessarily plotted on the infamous Gartner curve or whatever. I mean, so I don't have a bet on that. If I had, I'd probably put all the money on that. But yes.
Okay, so we'll work on that also in the next year. So I would thank you, all of you. So just give them a round of applause and thank you all.